The court also dismissed a challenge to the FDA's certification approval of the drug Mifepristone, which is used in medication abortions. Do these dual decisions signal to you, Skye, that the court just doesn't want to decide on abortion beyond what it did 2 years ago with Dobbs?
Well, I think we've seen what these two decisions are saying is that the court certainly doesn't want to decide anything that it perceives will outrage the public, particularly this year. But both in the EMTALA, the medical abortion decision, and in the Mifepristone decision, the court did not decide any issue on the merits, and so this continues to sow uncertainty in communities across the country. What the court did in the Mifepristone case was to say unequivocally that the case never belonged in the courts, that the plaintiffs in that case had no standing. But this highlights another problem that we have, which is that extremists are seeking to use our courts in ways that are improper. They shouldn't be in the courts. And in doing that, put Mifepristone access at jeopardy for over a year, where medical professionals, patients did not know whether that medication was going to be available because of the tactics that they used in handpicking a judge, in filing a case, in going to the Fifth Circuit, and of course all the resources that had to be expended to fight that battle. When the Supreme Court said in a 9-0 decision, this case should have never even been in the courts to begin with.
It's interesting that you mentioned the confusion that has been sown. There was a report from JAMA, leading medical journal, earlier this week showing that contraceptive access in states with abortion ban is down, and down more than what you'd expect if people were just getting longer forms of birth control, like an IUD, right? And so the authors of this study basically said there are fewer clinics operating in states with bans, but also there's general confusion among the populace about what is legal, what reproductive health can I access, and where can I access it? Is that consistent with what you're seeing?
Yes, I mean, and that's a real concern, because what we know is that these extreme groups that are behind cases like Dobbs, behind the Mifepristone case, behind challenges to federal emergency care, what they want to do is to confuse people, to make care inaccessible, and to create a situation where people cannot access the care they need, either because there's not appropriate information, because they live in a banned state and maybe don't have the resources to travel to a place where the care is lawful. And so we're continuing to see harms from Dobbs. And those harms, unfortunately, did not get alleviated in this court term. The court had the opportunity to once and for all settle some of these matters, and instead it just kicked the can down the road. And so many people and many women across the country will continue to live in uncertainty and to face real harm, like the women in Texas who continue to be deprived of emergency care, even in very dire situations.
Are there other cases on the horizon, either this term or next term, that stand to provide further clarity on America's reproductive health laws?
Well, we, there are attacks coming every day in courts across the country, and some of those will make their way to the Supreme Court. On the question of emergency care, there's a case in Texas right now that that the Department of Justice has had to appeal to the Supreme Court, and so that petition for cert before the Supreme Court is pending, and the state's answer is due soon. And so I do think that we'll continue to see these cases. And what we have seen with this court is, unfortunately, at times a trend where they avoid an issue during a year where they think everyone is paying attention, and then maybe come back and then seek to deprive people of their rights in times where they perceive that maybe there is less at stake. And so it's really important that we remain vigilant, that your viewers and those that listen to your programming sort of remain vigilant and highlighting these threats that we're seeing every day.